In the Ninjago Dragon's Rising storyline, Master Egalt stands out as a legendary dragon sensei, an ancient, talking dragon who once taught the art of spinjitzu. Yet Egalt is known for one cryptic declaration: "I only train dragons now." This blunt statement, delivered with a bitter edge, immediately raises questions. Why would a wise master refuse to teach humans? What happened with Egalt's prior human students that made him swear off training non-dragons entirely? The show itself leaves this backstory largely unexplained, hinting only at a troubled past. In this deep dive, we'll explore official lore, canonical clues, and fan theories to uncover who Egalt's human students were, what became of them, and the lore-driven reasons behind Egalt's change of heart. To understand Egalt's mindset, we first need to know who he is in canon. Egalt is one of the two Dragon Masters introduced in Ninjago Dragon's Rising, alongside his partner Rontu. Unlike Master Wu, the traditional human sensei of the ninja, Egalt is a dragon, an ancient being from the tribe of the Northern Spiral with millennia of experience. He even fought in the historic War of the Oni and Dragon ages ago. By the time of Dragon's Rising, Egalt lives as a reclusive teacher of martial arts, having shifted his focus to training dragons exclusively. When the ninja, Lloyd, Kai, Nia, and new heroes, Eren, Sora, seek out Egalt's guidance to learn a powerful technique, they encounter a hostile and reluctant mentor. Egalt snarls at the very idea of teaching humans, informing them that he has sworn off training non-dragons. This reaction clearly isn't just grumpiness, it's rooted in some past grievance. In Season 2, episode Force from the East, Egalt's refusal is emphatic. He bluntly states that he no longer trains humans, only dragons, and initially rebuffs the ninja's plea for help. His fellow Dragon Master, Rontu, has to remind him of the dire stakes, a new evil threat rising, to even get Egalt to reconsider. Egalt remains extremely wary. At one point, he reminds Rontu what happened last time. He trained a non-dragon. This line is a major clue that Egalt's final human pupil met a terrible outcome, one that scarred Egalt enough to make a vow never to teach humans again. The context makes it clear this isn't mere stubbornness. Egalt is fearful of repeating a past mistake. Eventually, seeing no alternative, Egalt does relent and agrees to train the ninja in the new Rising Dragon technique, but not without a warning. He reluctantly hopes he won't regret this decision, clearly still haunted by his previous experience. So, who exactly were Egalt's human, or otherwise non-dragon students, and what went so wrong? Officially, the show and tie-in media have kept their identities vague. In Egalt's profile from the canon sources, it's noted that he did train unknown former students in the past. These would have been humans or other mortal beings, as opposed to dragons. Egalt's interactions with human trainees were consistently negative, according to canonical lore, which led him to develop a strong aversion to teaching humans and to focus exclusively on dragons going forward. In other words, every attempt Egalt made to train human students ended in failure or worse. This pattern of bad outcomes set the stage for his current philosophy. While the names of those former students are not given in the show, Egalt's dialogue implies at least one specific student who betrayed or disappointed him gravely. He references a singular incident, what happened last time, suggesting there was one final straw, likely a pupil, who went astray in a dramatic way. Fans have widely speculated about this mysterious student. One credible theory is that Egalt's last human students were none other than the Forbidden Five, an ancient group of elemental masters who turned evil. This isn't confirmed outright, but it fits the timeline and Egalt's hints. The Forbidden Five are introduced in Dragon's Rising lore as five powerful warriors from the realm called the Wildness, who embraced a dark path, wreaking havoc and eventually becoming undead villains. Crucially, Egalt and Rontu themselves were the ones who defeated and banished the Forbidden Five thousands of years ago. If those five corrupt elemental masters had originally been students under Egalt's tutelage, it would perfectly explain his guilt and disgust towards training humans thereafter. Imagine training a group of young elemental fighters only to watch them fall to darkness and nearly conquer the realms. That would be a nightmare outcome for any sensei. Though not explicitly stated in canon, the parallels are strong. Even the show's writers have dropped hints that Egalt's disdain for humans comes from past bad experiences with them. The trope is reminiscent of Avatar's Wan Shi Tong, the spirit owl who swore off humans after they abused his knowledge. Egalt similarly became embittered after being burned by a human student. One fan on a Ninjago forum summed it up well. Egalt likely had an evil student who was not a dragon, which is why he presses that he does not want to train non-dragons anymore. In fact, within Dragon's Rising, Egalt himself admits he trained many non-dragons before, implying he gave humans plenty of chances, but something happened with the last one that made him want to quit teaching humans entirely. From the lore we have, it appears Egalt's human students met grim fates. If we follow the Forbidden Five theory, which is consistent with Egalt's era and the new series plot, the outcome was catastrophic. Those students succumbed to a dark power, Lore, the dark energy of Thunderfang, and became malevolent warlords. Egalt and Rontu were forced to confront their own pupils in battle. They devised the Rising Dragon technique specifically to counter the corrupted spinjitzu, Shatterspin, that these fallen students wielded. With the help of a sorceress ally, they managed to banish the five to a nether realm, averting further destruction. One can only imagine Egalt's personal turmoil in having to defeat the very warriors he may have once trained. The legend of that victory lived on for millennia. By the time of Dragon's Rising, characters describe Egalt and Rontu's ancient feat in almost mythical terms. If Egalt's unknown former students weren't the Forbidden Five, then at the very least we know something similarly dire occurred. Egalt's line indicates a single former student's actions scarred him deeply. Perhaps that student betrayed him, misused the teachings, or caused loss of life. There's also a fan suggestion that this mysterious pupil could tie into the current villains. For instance, some wondered if Lord Rass's unseen master might be Egalt's rogue student in hiding. However, within Season 2's story, it's revealed Lord Rass was following the Forbidden Five's legacy, trying to free them, not being instructed by an active master. This circles back to the Forbidden Five themselves as the likely culprits behind Egalt's trauma. In any case, the canonical outcome of Egalt's last human students was disaster. Egalt's trust was betrayed, his teachings were turned to evil purposes, and he was left with profound regret. When Egalt declares, "I only train dragons now," it's not just a throwaway line, it encapsulates his entire character arc up to that point. The context is key. Lloyd and the other ninja approach Egalt because they desperately need to learn a new fighting technique to combat a rising threat. Egalt is their last hope for a teacher, yet Egalt's first instinct is refusal, grounded in fear. He essentially says, "No, not after what happened last time. I don't train humans anymore." This moment occurs in Dragon's Rising Season 2, and it immediately creates tension. For the ninja and viewers, Egalt's stance is baffling. Aren't senseis supposed to help any worthy student? Egalt's gruff explanation is that he has had it with training mortals. He doesn't trust humans to handle what he can teach. The implication is that he sees humans as too fallible or dangerous based on prior experience. From a lore perspective, this line shows how Egalt's past failures shaped his philosophy. For ages, Egalt limited himself to training dragons only. Indeed, Egalt is shown to be the mentor of many young dragons in his tribe, and he's much more comfortable with them. Dragons in Ninjago are portrayed as noble, powerful creatures. Perhaps Egalt believes dragons have the wisdom or longevity that humans lack. The tragedy he endured made him develop a kind of species-based prejudice, a blanket rule that no humans can be trusted as students. In fantasy terms, this is a classic case of an immortal or long-lived being developing fantastic racism against shorter-lived mortals. Egalt's words carry bitterness, suggesting he was personally hurt or betrayed by a human pupil's choices. It's also worth noting the dramatic weight this adds in the story. Egalt's reluctance forces the ninja to prove themselves. In Force from the East, Lloyd and his team undergo a series of tests set by Egalt and Rontu to show their worthiness. Even after passing the tests, Egalt is still hesitant until the dire news of the Forbidden Five's impending return convinces him that refusing could doom the world. When Egalt finally agrees to teach the humans the Rising Dragon technique, it's portrayed as a big deal, a centuries-old bias being overcome out of necessity. The implication is that Egalt is giving humanity one last chance, and he makes it clear he expects them to fail or disappoint him. He explicitly warns he hopes he won't regret training them. This dynamic adds tension to the training arc, as Egalt is a harsh teacher with little patience for mistakes, likely because he's seen where mistakes can lead. For example, he demotes Eren to a different instructor after one mishap, showing how strict and fearful he is of a repeat of history. Egalt's decision to only train dragons serves several thematic purposes in Ninjago lore. On one level, it illustrates the lingering scars of mentorship gone wrong. Ninjago has explored this theme before, Master Wu's guilt over his former pupil Moro turning evil, for instance. But Egalt takes it to an extreme by abandoning teaching humans altogether. His story is a cautionary tale about how even a wise master can become jaded. The lore suggests that Egalt lost faith in an entire people, humans, because of the failure of a few. This highlights a theme of prejudice born from personal trauma. It's a nuanced angle. Egalt isn't evil. He's genuinely trying to avoid unleashing another monster onto the world. In his mind, he's protecting the realms by refusing to arm fallible humans with dangerous knowledge. This is a tragic inversion of the typical mentor hero. Instead of boundless patience, Egalt has fear and bias. Another lore-based reason for Egalt's change in philosophy could be the cultural difference between dragons and humans in Ninjago's merged realms. Dragons like Egalt are effectively immortal, or at least extremely long-lived, and and have a broader perspective on history. Egalt witnessed firsthand how short-sighted or ambitious humans could succumb to darkness quickly. Dragons, on the other hand, might be more inherently connected to elemental balance. Some even communicate telepathically and avoid mortal affairs. Egalt may feel that only dragons can be trusted with certain power without abusing it. Indeed, he notes that source dragons typically do not interfere with mortal affairs unless a crisis demands it, a worldview he likely shares. So, from a lore standpoint, Egalt's stance is partly about the natural tension between dragons and humans in the new merged world. It adds depth to the world building. Even allies, like the ninja and the dragon masters, have to overcome species-based mistrust. It's also interesting to consider Egalt's journey once he does take on human students again. Lloyd's team. By the end of the Dragons Rising Season 2 to 3 arc, Egalt's hardened heart begins to soften. In a touching bit of canonical lore, when Egalt lies on his deathbed, suffering from a wasting sickness, he reflects on his students with some pride and sadness. He is saddened that 2 of his new human students, Aaron and Sora, aren't present, and he admits he saw great potential in Aaron despite having been so hard on him. Egalt even urges Lloyd not to give up on his lost students. This is a significant shift in Egalt's attitude. It shows that through teaching humans again, he rediscovered hope that not all will turn out poorly. Thematically, it completes a redemption for Egalt. He overcame his past trauma enough to trust in the next generation. His earlier statement, "I only train dragons now," is essentially reversed in spirit by his final actions, as he does train humans, and that training ultimately helps save the realms. In lore terms, Egalt's change of heart underscores a classic Ninjago lesson. Past mistakes can't be undone by isolation, only by faith and action in the present. Egalt's missing human students remain one of the more intriguing pieces of unexplored Ninjago backstory. The canon gives us the outline: multiple failed apprenticeships, a final student who went horribly wrong, and Egalt's subsequent retreat into training dragons exclusively. The exact identities of those students are left to our imagination, but all evidence points to a tie-in with the ancient evil of the Forbidden Five, or a similar calamity. Even without every detail spelled out on screen, Egalt's single line, "I only train dragons now," carries the weight of a tragic history. It adds a layer of gravity to Dragons Rising, making us realize that the mentors of this world carry heavy burdens too. By piecing together official lore and credible theories, we see a picture of Egalt as a once hopeful teacher betrayed by the very ones he guided. His philosophy change was born from failure and fear, serving as both a character flaw and a protective instinct. This enriches the Ninjago universe by showing that trust between species and generations isn't automatic. It must be earned and renewed. Egalt's story ultimately reinforces a hopeful message. Despite past betrayals, when the world needed him, he overcame his bitterness to train new heroes. And in doing so, he perhaps found some redemption for the fate of those human students he lost long ago.